My name is Ezekiel, came in from Lagos, and today I'm going to be sharing a story about the day fear died, just to highlight some of the challenges that 21st century children face. Well, we've been facing challenges ever since, but I'm hoping that with this presentation, we'll be able to get across to children, of course, but more importantly, across to parents, across to those of us who are a bit older, across to teachers, and probably a few policymakers in the education sector to rethink the way we run, particularly the school system. It all started in 2008 for me when I lost my brother. He was my other brother, and for many years, my best friend. We did everything together. We were just about a year apart, and it was 3 months. I remember very vividly, I was in Lagos. I was coming in from a friend's wedding, a senior friend's wedding, and I got a call. He was in summer, and I got a call, and that call sparked up 3 months of what would eventually become the worst 3 months of my life. A lot of things that I wouldn't want to remember. But I lived every day afraid of the fact that the worst would happen. And unfortunately, on the 16th of September 2008, 4:31 p.m., the worst did happen. So I started to think, when I was beginning to rethink the entire situation and start to get myself back into life, I started to ask myself questions. And what happened to him taught me one thing, that oftentimes what you're afraid of will happen. And, I also started to rethink the idea that, we see fear as an acronym, that fear is false evidence appearing real. I think it's a little different. I think fear is false evidence, quite all right, but false evidence assuming reality. Because many times when you're afraid of something, that thing would become the object of your reality sooner than later. So I started to ask myself, how did we get to that point? How did we get to the point where we became so afraid? How did we get to that point where life became so fearful? People would not want to try new things. People just got satisfied with the status quo. And I realized that it started in school. I believe that in school we learned to fear 3 things that would eventually control our lives. Perhaps until we start to think differently, until we start to act differently. First, I think we learned what I would call the fear of mistakes. Now, in school, when you make a mistake, everybody laughs at you. Everybody thinks you're dumb. The teacher probably scolds you. So many times, we start to get students, not to want to make mistakes. So a teacher asks a question in class, and nobody wants to answer because they are scared they would make a mistake. And nobody's really happy to make a mistake. I don't think anybody should be happy to make a mistake. But the problem I see is that it graduates into a fear of even trying. So you ask yourself every time, if I'm not sure it's going to work, why should I do it? So we have people who would maintain the status quo, not try anything new. You don't like where you are, but you don't want to do anything about it because you're afraid that you'll make a mistake. You are at a pivotal point in your life. Maybe you're a teenager and you're faced with that, decision either to go this way or the way that your parents want you to go. And you don't want to really make any decision because you're afraid that you might make a mistake of your life. But all these things starts back in school. We learned how to be afraid of mistakes. But in life, everything we know, every single thing we know has been learned by trial and error. Every single invention. Many times, most of our great inventors did not start out to invent the things that they eventually invented. In fact, I was listening recently, and it It was said that those who invented the text messaging system didn't exactly even know what it was about until the technology was released and users were able to help them interpret it and, found expressions to the things that, the text messaging system could do. So many times, if we do not want to make mistakes, we might not be able to move beyond where we want to move. So as students, you would make mistakes. But guess what? If you don't stop at that, you will learn and you become better for it. Secondly, I think we learned the fear of failure. Unfortunately, in the school system, we hear this very common. If you don't read, you would fail. How about if we flip it and say if you read, you would pass, or if you read, you would learn something remarkable, or if you read, you would do great things in life? That's because in our school system, the fear of failure, other than the joy of learning, is used as the biggest motivating factor. So they want to motivate you to succeed, and they tell you that if you do not read, you would fail. That is true. But unfortunately, if you use that literally, what you get is somebody who just reads to pass, who would perhaps pass exams, grow from primary school, gets into secondary school with distinction, passes the university, graduates as probably a mechanical engineer, but when he's done with school, wonderful certificate, but doesn't exactly know anything on how to apply it. I've met some of these people. And many times, they grew out of this fear of failure. They just wanted to pass. But beyond the fear of failure is the joy of learning. Beyond the fear of failure is the rewards of success. Beyond the fear of failure is the fact that you could just read and learn things. You don't necessarily have to read because there's an exam. You don't necessarily have to learn because if you don't learn, you would fail. But you could just learn and become better for it. You could just take it as a hobby. Like one of our speakers here said today, you could read. You could read and just become better for it. But more importantly, those of us who are teachers, we need to be able to show the students in our classes, in our schools, that failure is not the reason why they should succeed. That they should succeed because every single human being is already a success. Biology teaches us that for you to be born, over 1 million spermatozoa were released, and you were the fastest runner, and you came out. The fact that you were born means that you were 1 in 1 million, means that you've already succeeded. The fact that I can see you is proof that you're a successful person already. And guess what? If you're a successful person, you succeed. That's what successful people do. If you're a dog, you bark. Your barking doesn't make you a dog. Your being a dog makes you bark. So if you're a successful person, that's all you do. You succeed. And finally, I think we learned very subtly what I would call the fear of success. I mean, of us remember this song when we were in primary school, Humpty Dumpty. I mean, of us remember Humpty Dumpty? Beautiful song. And, as beautiful as it is, I see that it has I have a little bit of problem with it because the song says Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall and eventually had a great fall. Then all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty together again. And beautiful song. Fantastic song, in fact. It was nice. It's nice enough that I still remember it. But unfortunately, what that does, or what I think it does, or what it did to me, is that many times it restricts us from wanting to go for super success. Because we think, in our mind, there's something in our mind that keeps singing this song to us. That's Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Then he had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty together again. So the big question in our mind sometimes is, what if we have a great fall? So many times we see people who are just, they've just done something really small and they want to keep it that way. They don't want to go beyond what they've achieved. But again, like I said, what successful people do is that they succeed. And no matter where you've gotten to, you can succeed a lot more. So you must always live with that consciousness that with wherever level that you've gotten to, there's always a higher level. And guess what? If you get to that wall and you have a great fall, and all the king's horses and all the king's men didn't put you together again, you get up, put yourself together, and keep on succeeding. That's what you do. Irrespective of whether the king's horses, maybe the king's horses didn't have the manual on how to put you together again. And guess what? You have the manual. You know how you got to that level that you are. And if you have a great fall, you get up, pick yourself up together, put yourself together, pick the ladder, and then get back on the wall. Why? Because successful people always succeed. And don't ever forget that the fact that you have showed up on this wall, on this earth, is proof that you're successful. So, what do we do about fear? This is the truth. And I'm hoping that every one of us, particularly those of us who are, children in this place, and those of us who are teachers, will learn this. We had a perfect example this afternoon. We had a dancing competition, and a few people one person got the prize, a few people got a few things, and some of us were asked to go back. So it would always happen. Fear keeps us thinking that negative things would happen. Well, true, negative things would happen. You would have somebody who would talk to you and disappoint you. Maybe you would even disappoint yourself. But guess what? If you don't stop at it, you would always succeed. You would always succeed. If you didn't win today at the dance competition, you probably might win a Nobel Prize tomorrow. But you would always succeed. Now, we might not succeed at some things, but guess what? When you eventually succeed, all the mistakes, all the failures, everything that seemed not to have worked would all make sense. It would all make perfect sense, because when you put all the things together again, you'll discover that you're a better person for it. And that's what I have done. I've moved on from 2008, and really I would say that that's where my life really started. And I've achieved a whole lot more things than I did before 2008. I've practically lived the life of my dreams. And every single day, I've lived with courage. Because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is facing your fears and finding deeper reasons why you must succeed that is higher than the object of your fears. Thank you very much.